bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet.
Hey everybody, my name's Oscar and this is Adam, and we're going to be here breaking down Doctor Who Series 11, Episode 1, The Woman Who Fell to Earth.
Obviously, we're going to be getting into a ton of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, definitely make sure you check it out first, but then come right back here as we're going to be discussing every single bit of it.
And we've got plenty more Doctor Who content on GameSpot Universe, so make sure to subscribe and check it all out. But for now, let's get into it. All right, Adam, obviously the biggest thing about this new series of Doctor Who is there is a new Doctor. Jodie Whittaker is in the driving seat of the TARDIS this time round. What did you think? What did you think of her performance, of her character?
I really liked her on the whole. I thought, she had a lot of energy. She felt quite David Tennant-esque.
Very David Tennant-esque, I thought.
Yeah, like sort of the wide-eyed optimism and sort of that, just real sparky nature to her. She was constantly thinking, constantly talking.
And really sort of erratic, leaping around from corner to corner, from topic to topic.
Like one thing I think the Doctor really needs to have is that sort of erratic nature where they're one moment really optimistic and then the next deathly serious, and I think she really nailed that. Peter Capaldi was great at doing that, Matt Smith, David Tennant, they've all the previous Doctors have done that in a really good way, and I'm really glad that she's kind of continuing that tradition.
Yeah, definitely.
There's one moment that I thought really sort of exemplified that, and that's that end scene with Carl and the Strenza, or Tim Shaw, we'll call him, on the crane, and she's just one moment is desperately trying to sort of save that Carl, and then the next, and he's kicked the alien off the crane, and she just flips on him. She's like, "You had no right to do that," and it's
suddenly turns into an angry school teacher, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I thought that was really good. She had an edge to her.
Go home.
Important.
You had no right to do that.
And that's what I'm looking forward to see more of. I think it's difficult at this stage because it's so early on, and although it was a slightly longer episode this week than generally they are, it's trying to introduce so many new elements, and she herself doesn't really know who she is at this stage, right? She remarks a number of times about how she's still finding out her insides, and she says something about her nose. And
it's unreliable.
Unreliable, yeah.
That's a great line.
And it's very difficult, I think, at this stage to get a full sort of grasp on what her character's going to be like.
It'd be really interesting to see where she goes, the kind of stories that sort of shape her character, right? And the character, the Doctor's always shaped by the companions, and we'll get to them shortly, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how she develops across the series. One element that I really, really liked about her, which I felt was new and quite unique to her, was she was quite practical. She had this sort of practicality to her. There was a lot of dialogue about, I'm the Doctor, I fix things, and you actually saw her doing that. And it was really nice to actually see her being active in that way, making her own sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
That was great. That was a really kind of...
And the tracking device.
Yeah, they just all felt like defining qualities. She had even with the TARDIS at the end, we didn't obviously see the TARDIS, but her using the Strenza technology to try and find the TARDIS. It was retooling it. She's like, this is jumbled. I've got 147 layers, 7 don't make sense. It's she knows what she's talking about.
What it says to me is that this is a Doctor who is not afraid to roll her sleeves up and get her hands dirty.
Yeah, definitely.
Ta-da! Ooh. Should be fine.
Of course, it wouldn't be Doctor Who without the companions, and we got 3 brand new companions this time around. The first one we met was Ryan, who is this 19-year-old kid. He's really sort of, a young up-and-comer, and he's studying to become a mechanic. He's got a lot of, potential there, but he's also got a lot of issues, especially with his family. His dad's not around. He's living with his grandma because his mum has also passed away.
That's right.
And obviously he's, struggling with dyspraxia, which was, I think really touchingly sort of portrayed in this episode.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of potential as a Doctor Who companion. I think he's
definitely,
someone that's got a lot to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's immediately relatable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're introduced to him as a vlogger, and it's
it's
quite almost like a 21st century, very modern millennial setup for it.
I really hope we get him like vlogging the entire
What's up,
adventures.
guys?
I'm here on Straxis 6 and we're talking about...
That'd be great. But yeah, I thought he was really promising. And then obviously his step-granddad, Graham, is one of our other sort of main companions for this series, portrayed by Bradley Walsh, who I wasn't a huge fan of when I heard the news that he'd been cast, because before this I wouldn't have said he's a great actor. He's more known these days for his hosting ability on game shows and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
When he was cast, I was a bit like, oh no, he's going to be so cringeworthy and he's just going to be like the really like dull comic relief. But actually, he had some depth to him. I think they're seeming like they're aiming for him to become sort of the Wilf of this series. I don't know if you remember Wilf from series 4.
Oh, from series 4, Donna's granddad, Catherine Tate's character.
That's right, yeah. So and like he was great. I loved Wilf back then, and I think they're sort of aiming for Bradley Walsh to be that character of this series, sort of the older, more sort of senior statesman of the group who doesn't believe in aliens.
I kind of heard that like he was going to be sort of the comic relief character, and I'm kind of glad that they haven't like fully embraced that, because I think that could just be so one-dimensional. And I think he's got a lot more going to him than just comic relief.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we had Yasmin Khan, who was a copper or fed, as Ryan called her.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit bizarre, but we didn't really see much of her, or her character development in this episode compared to, I think, Ryan and Graham.
Yeah.
But I think we got a sense of the kind of character she is, and I think she's kind of going to be a really good foil for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Because she was confident in the same way the Doctor was confident. She was like, aching for more challenge in her work, which I think was a really nice portrayal of that character.
Definitely, but they seemed to be at odds quite a lot, actually. Even in like the train sequence, for example, she was saying, well, I'm going to call this in, and the Doctor was saying, well, what's the point? Who are you going to call it into? No one's ever seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And you can already see where there might be conflict or tension there, which is going to make for a really interesting...
Yeah. One thing I really like, in fact, about that interplay is like how the Doctor was forcing Yaz to kind of think about the situation and like analyze it there and then. It was really interesting how she was like, why? What? When? And Yaz was like, but yeah, you're right. Actually, that makes no sense.
Yeah. But I think the most impressive thing about the companions so far from what we've seen in this first episode is how well they were all grounded and sort of humanized immediately, even before, because it took like 10 minutes before we even saw the Doctor, right? So we got a good chunk of time just spent with the companions first, but not only that, we showed a glimpse into their actual lives, and their motivations for doing the things that they're doing.
And they're all relatable. They've all got like relatable human motivations.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's impossible not to relate to Ryan's family struggles, and and we've all tried and probably failed at some point to learn to ride a bike, and we've probably all at some point in our work lives wanted something, freshening up. And
even Graham, I mean, obviously we're not old, we haven't got grandkids, but Graham's like desire for Ryan to call him granddad was just such a nice little touch, I thought, that really made his character have some kind of emotion to him. He wants something like from this relationship. He cares, which is important.
And that's where I think the last few series have probably missed a little bit of this grounding in reality. And it definitely, from what we've seen so far, this is going to be a very grounded and very human series of Doctor Who.
So everything we saw, everything we've lied to people about, is this normal for you?
I'm just a traveller. Sometimes I see things need fixing. I do what I can.
And it also wouldn't be a Doctor Who episode without a Monster of the Week. And the Monster for this week, Adam, was Tim Shaw.
Tim Shaw,
Tim Shaw.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that this series is going to double down on like ordinary sounding monsters. Like there's going to be Kevin the Dalek, or like Colin the Cyberman.
I would love that. But yeah, Tim Shaw, he is a Strenza warrior. He's essentially like a space serial killer, right? With a load of teeth in his face, which was really creepy.
I mean, I got huge echoes of Predator, right? Like, he was like an alien serial killer hunter coming down to Earth to hunt specifically a human prey. And this villain is clearly sort of touching those notes, right? And he was creepy. I thought he was really creepy.
It's a simple concept, right? But I think that's what this episode needed, because the villain was always going to be the B plot of this episode, because this episode was not about the villain, it was about the Doctor and the companions and getting to know them and the whole series reboot thing, right? So it needed a simple villain, and it got one, and I thought it was really effective at what it did.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing, though, is that, like, he doesn't die at the end. Like
No.
most monsters in Doctor Who either die or they're banished or whatever. This one just sort of warps away and escapes.
It's very likely that we might see him again. So this series, this episode felt very much like a reboot of Doctor Who, and on the whole I had very like Casino Royale vibes to that style of reboot. I mean that in several different ways, which we'll get into. But the
It's because of the cranes, right?
100% that crane sequence.
The crane
was
sequence was just
lifted straight from.
Oh, it was
Casino
just
Royale.
Casino Royale through and through.
Obviously, on the surface, I felt a lot grittier. It was sort of darker. The cinematography did a really great job of portraying a really dark sort of tone. The music I thought was incredibly
Music, it was very tense. I
and
thought.
atmospheric,
Yeah.
and the effects were great, all that sort of stuff. Like there was a bit more violence, I thought, than your normal Doctor Who episode.
For sure, yeah.
The teeth coming out, it's a
Yeah,
bit grim.
it was gruesome at times, for sure. But I think where the Casino Royale comparison comes in strongest is the way it throws up all the ingredients of a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Mixes them all around.
Like how
right?
Casino Royale was like, oh, you're waiting for that moment where he says the name's Bond, James Bond, but it doesn't happen right to the very end. Like it felt like that.
Yeah,
So,
well, she's like trying to remember her name for all of this
Yeah.
episode, right? She doesn't remember that she's the Doctor until like right towards the end, and there's no title sequence.
I know that was the thing that really sort of threw me because
Yeah.
so it was about 10 minutes in where we first meet the Doctor, where she falls in through the roof of the train, and I just was waiting for that TARDIS sound effect to kick in and then the
same.
title sequence.
And that's the other thing, we don't see the TARDIS, like I think the most striking thing about this episode for me is that getting a new Doctor is a bit like your morning routine, right? It's a bit like you get up, you go and have your shower, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, and everyone has their own routine that they do the same every morning. And Doctor Who is always the same. You have a new Doctor, you have the TARDIS is redesigned, they find their new look, and we didn't really get any of that. It took ages for us to see the Doctor for the first time. We still haven't seen the Doctor's TARDIS.
No.
She gets a sonic screwdriver, but that happens like way before everything else, whereas usually it happens after.
Yeah.
And it was like, the routine is all mixed up. I've got up and I've brushed my teeth before having my breakfast, you know? And it's like, I was a bit thrown off by it.
it was really bizarre because I was totally waiting for that title sequence to kick in, and it was like 20 minutes in, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
it's not coming.
I know.
It's not coming, this is weird.
Having said that, the exit title sequence I thought was great and like very 60s inspired.
Yeah.
And I have to say I absolutely loved that music and the effects, and I really want. Are we even going to get a title sequence?
I hope we are. I really hope we're going to get that in episode 2.
Surely they won't just get rid of a title sequence.
No, it feels so good.
I
I
know.
love the title sequence, yeah. I love those little cold opens and then you
Yeah.
get the title sequence and you're like, yeah, it's Doctor Who.
Hopefully episode 2 will be the time that we see the title sequence. So the message coming out of the Doctor Who camp before this series started, Adam, was all about there was going to be no series arc, there was going to be no thread
Two-parters.
all the way through, no two-parter episodes.
Yeah.
It was all going to be very standalone chunks that you could dip in and out of and almost designed for a casual viewer.
Yeah.
But this seemed to be in direct contrast to that message, the ending of this episode.
Yeah, there were a lot of big ramifications coming out of sort of maybe the last 15, 20 minutes of this episode. I think the first major one was the sad death of Grace, Ryan's grandma, who we both really liked as a character. And
Yeah.
I think we were a bit gutted that she, got axed kind of early on. But I also feel, I think we both are on the same page here, that we're going to see more of her. Like,
I hope so.
It feels like there's unfinished business with her character,
For sure. And even if we don't see more of her, I at least feel like her death and her presence or lack thereof is going to be felt for the rest of this series.
Definitely,
Because
yeah.
there's a lot of human connections between her and the rest of the cast.
Definitely, but this is also a time-traveling show, so we could always go back and see her earlier in her life. It might maybe to a time where she's not met Bradley Walsh's character before.
That'd be
quite interesting,
yeah.
wouldn't it? Yeah. Bradley Walsh, whose character Graham, we found out has cancer or had cancer. He's now in remission. I kind of feel like that was too much of a big statement to leave hanging there. I feel like we're going to see more of that, and
Yeah,
I feel like
potentially.
yeah,
There's definitely potential for drama there.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Poor Graham though, man. He's had a
had a rough
time
time.
of it. Yeah, he's lost his wife. He's got cancer.
Well, I had cancer, and well, strictly speaking, I'm still in remission. 3 years gone, and Grace was my chemo nurse. That's where we met and fell in love.
And then that cliffhanger. I mean, that felt like a real sort of typical Doctor Who cliffhanger. But I kind of wasn't expecting it because they said there were going to be no two-part episodes, so I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's all going to be standalones. And then bam, it was like, oh.
Yeah, it ends with them just drifting in space, which is really strange, I thought.
I was not expecting it at all. And
No, not at all.
I kind of like that, and I feel like it might lean towards a series that each story, whereas it could be a standalone, will sort of thread together.
Yeah,
so like
can at least sort of flow.
Yeah, so I think episode 2 will literally start.
Is this the first Doctor Who series built for the Netflix generation, Adam? But obviously, we that was silly. We got a glimpse of some of the rest of this series to come
Yes.
at the end of this episode with the sort of traditional series trailer. Now, usually that trailer gives us a glimpse of some of the villains and some of the locations that we're going to be travelling across in the series to come. But this time we just got all of the guest stars, which felt really weird to me.
Yeah, it was a bizarre trailer, and it was kind of, it just kept going. You were like,
Yeah.
oh, and that guy's in it, and that guy's in it, and they're in it, and it's like, I mean, I kind of like it, I don't like it. I like it because it still maintains that air of mysteriousness that the whole series is kind of promoting. We don't know anything beyond episode 2 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, except for all the guest stars, but like, we still don't know who some of them are portraying. Like, we saw Alan Cumming as James I, which is great to see, and but, like, right now, it's still
It's definitely mysterious, but I think the most striking thing for me about that cast of characters was how diverse they all were.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's a really good thing, and even the companions as well. Like, I think it's about time that sort of happened for Doctor Who, really. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what else this series has in store. There weren't a huge amount of Easter eggs in this episode, but we noticed a couple, so let's break those down for you.
So something that I noticed, there was an old newspaper headline in the garage that said "Strange skies over Sheffield." So I think this might point to, Sheffield either being a confluence of alien activity, or at least a location that obviously we're going to return to because of all the characters, but there's definitely something fishy going on there.
That'd be daft. There's no such thing as aliens. Anyway, even if they was, they ain't gonna be on a train in Sheffield.
Why not? I'm alien and I'm here.
Now, the Doctor made her new sonic screwdriver out of a bunch of spoons. Is this maybe a hangover from Peter Capaldi's Doctor, who also had a bit of a thing for spoons? He used one as a weapon in the Robin Hood episode, and even turned one into a sonic spoon in the novel The Blood Cell.
Another thing that I noticed, right at the end, the Doctor says, "deep breath."
Deep breath.
Which is obviously a small reference to the Peter Capaldi debut episode of the same name back in Series 8.
The alien is actually credited as Tim Shaw in the credits. Bravo, BBC.
And perhaps my favourite Easter egg is the alien cocoon that Tim Shaw arrives in at the beginning of the episode is clearly modelled on the slime from Dragon Quest. Right, so those are our thoughts for episode 1, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. But before we finish up, Oscar, what was your favourite moment?
I'd have to say the best bit of this episode was the drunk guy throwing the discarded bits of his kebab at Tim Shaw.
He really didn't like that salad, did he?
Yeah, he really didn't. But I mean, we've all done it, and I just thought that was the most relatable and human part of this episode.
Shot the kebab though, that kebab looked great. Whoa. Next week's episode is the Ghost Monument, which we've seen a tiny slither of in the little teaser they gave at the end of the episode. It looks like a really interesting episode set on a hostile alien planet, and who knows, we might see the TARDIS and a title sequence.
Yes,
maybe.
please.
Fingers crossed.
But for now, guys, that's all from episode 1. Let us know what you think on the new Doctor and everything from the new season in the comments below. We'll be reading out some of the best comments in next week's episode, or you can come and yell at us on Twitter. I'm at DeusZ.
I'm at Adam Rees-Mace, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for watching.